Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. So I wanted to make this video because I wanted to quickly address this and share my perspective on it, because it's a situation where there's a discussion that I've actually been a part of for a long time. So sometime in January of 2017, so over 2 years ago, I made a video titled Why a PVE Dark Zone Works. That video is still here on YouTube. If you want to watch it, you can watch it, but I would say if you want to cringe, that's where you should watch a video like that. Now, I made that video because a lot of people were more attracted to the Dark Zone back then, whether they were PvE or PvP players, and just because of the way the Dark Zone was. Big landscape, and what a lot of people don't know is a lot of PvE players enjoyed running the Dark Zone, even if they didn't want to PvP. It was just a very efficient, unique way to run and farm. You got supply drops. It was a very lively place to be in. And so a PvE Dark Zone was something that we spoke about then, and there were so many options, and I still hold my position today that a PvE Dark Zone will work. The only difference is that a PvE Dark Zone is not necessary in the Division 2 anyways. And so right now we have a light zone, an open world that is living, breathing, reactive. And I think that was Massive's way to actually say, here, we want the Dark Zone to be a PvP side, but we also want the light zone, what we call outside the Dark Zone, to have those elements as well. And I think even in the Division 1, they did the same thing. So when they added that new section, I think in patch 1.7, the new little area, I can't remember the name, there was a unique aspect to it that felt like the Dark Zone in a sense. They didn't want to call it that, but it had a lot of the attributes to the Dark Zone, plus the wave and, little areas where you go in there and fight different waves of enemies and achieve a whole bunch of stuff and get possible rewards when you open these so-called chests. From gathering enough points. But if you ran around that area, there were bosses that were spawning, there were little things that were happening, but it was like a mini map for PvE players to just have that sandbox feel. And so the developers kind of understand that something like that was unique in its sense, and many PvE players that didn't want to PvP were attracted to it, but did not want to have to deal with anybody ganking them or taking stuff, whatever it was. And as many PvP players, see it, they say, well, the Dark Zone has to be a high risk, high reward place to be. And I agree. I mean, I'm not saying that I disagree. It's what they sold the game on. But the truth is, a lot of people don't like being ganked. A lot of people don't want to shoot other people in the Division game. It's just the way it is. There are some people that in a PvE or PvP VE game, they prefer the PvE side of the game regardless of wherever they are. And so this is where there were I think this is where there was a little bit of a rub between both sides of the community. So lately, it's also popped up again on Reddit that a PvE Dark Zone will be something that's needed or something that a lot of people will be interested in. But I heavily doubt that that's the case, honestly, because right now, the way the Dark Zone is in the Division 2 is very unique from the way the Dark Zone in Division 1 was. The Dark Zone in Division 1 was big enough where they could have simulated a server that had all the same attributes, but instead with the surprise of different challenges and hunters and maybe even more gruesome enemy types. A lot of people actually put that idea out there. Some people even said, if there was going to be a PvE Dark Zone, the rewards had to be less than the PvP Dark Zone because the PvP Dark Zone was supposed to be much more difficult and have all this stuff. And some people were like, no, heck no, we don't want a PvE Dark Zone. And I know exactly why. They didn't want PvE players to have a different place just to go sit there and be farming, because PvE players, that's what PvE players do. They just sit there and just farm. We just sit there and farm and get our build to be 1% better than it was yesterday. It's just the way a lot of people are. You'll be very surprised how micromanaging most of the people who prefer PvE are. And I'm sure some PvP players do the same thing as well. But two different goals, trying to achieve them at the same time, was what kind of made a lot of people start talking about this PvE Dark Zone. But my position today, moving away from the Division 1, having seen what the Division 2 has to offer, is that even though a PvE Dark Zone would work, it is unnecessary. All the loot drops everywhere on the map. It's possible to get, items everywhere. Now, yes, the pestilence is in the Dark Zone, but it's not really going to change the game for me. Even if they buff the pestilence right now, I will still not go in the Dark Zone by myself to go look for one. I mean, it's just the way it is. There's so many other things that the game has to offer, in the sense that my builds are going to be good. with the patch coming soon, there are going to be more attributes that I can grind for. So I can go back and perfect my build and run things like armor regeneration, a bunch of health on my gear so that I can be stronger, make it look good. It's what a lot of PvE players do. In fact, nobody wants to say it, but a lot of PvE players will just find themselves on Discord sharing pictures of their builds or on PSN. It's what we did back in the day, and that was already satisfying because it just meant you built something and you already enjoyed that sense of completion that went with it. Other people, on the other hand, want to continue and extend that process and go see if they can challenge themselves against another person to see if there's a skill, if there's a missing skill gap for them to be able to take on both NPC and other people in the game. And that's fine as well. But when it comes to that discussion of the PVE Dark Zone, I want to hear what you guys think, but I don't think it's necessary in the Division 2. Everything is out there in the Light Zone, except maybe a few items, and locking anything even inside of the Dark Zone is pointless because people who don't want a PvP are not going to PvP. But those who want a PvP will definitely PvP as well. So right now, what needs to be done is to make the Dark Zone actually become what it needs to be to appeal to the PvP community. And what is that? Well, Massive needs to listen to their PvP community. They need to see what they want, and they need to be able to, help them get to that point or kind of walk through a development pathway to get the PvP to where it needs to be. On the PvE side, Massive needs to continue to keep its content schedule to be on time. Delaying the raid this long, to me, I've already said this before, I just feel like it was done because it just wasn't ready. Because, development cycle, this game was first shown in its basic bare bones in June of 2018. And so from then all the way through now, I was very, very surprised that they were even able to release the game with everything up through level 30, World Tier 5 in that period of time. Sure, they've been working on it since the Division 1 released, but it's still a very difficult thing to develop a game to its fullest. So right now, maybe the raids were done and they were trying to balance things, but I will err on the side of being super cautious of saying I don't think it was fully ready. And so they had to give us a PTS or something to kind of keep us busy, but it really put a big gaping hole in the community. And I feel like they should have had a contingency plan. So right now, a lot of the PvE community and PvE community are requesting for things from the old game. They want shadows of the old game to show up very clearly in the Division 2. Some PvE players are asking for things like the underground, a new area where they can actually go and farm and explore, while some PvP players are asking for those things that made the Division 1 actually very good. But the problem is those systems don't exist in the Division 2 game. And if those systems don't exist, it will take a new breed of PvP players to start to appreciate what's currently on the table right now. Or Massive would have to make some really, really edgy moves, like take us back to New York City, give us that feel of New York City, and kind of start replacing those elements and create something very dynamic, which it sounds like it's too much to do, but it is exactly what needs to be done in order to bring every single aspect of the community back. Massive signed up for a difficult game to execute, so it's their own, it's their cross, so they have to bear it. It's difficult to balance a PvE and PvP shooter. It's very hard. It's one of the hardest things to do, and we understand, but y'all promised it, so I think the delivery is left on their table. But let me hear what you guys think about this whole PvP, PvE Dark Zone. I just wanted to address the issue as somebody who has been in this discussion for a long time, and you guys already have my conclusion. So anyways, that's all I have for today. Thank you guys for your time and your audience. And if you like the content, please don't hesitate to subscribe. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Peace.